They mocked him in public, laughed behind badges, and turned his humiliation into entertainment, never realizing that before the sun set, the truth about who he was would tear their authority apart and expose a system that had hidden its cruelty for decades. Stay with this story until the end, because what is revealed will change how you see power, justice, and dignity forever. Don't forget to subscribe. Your support is what will help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers. The sirens were unnecessary. Everyone knew it. They screamed anyway, slicing through the morning air as if to announce a performance about to begin. People turned their heads. Phones rose. Curiosity fed the moment. Elijah Moore stood on the courthouse steps, his posture calm, his hands visible, a single leather briefcase resting beside his leg. He had arrived early, as he always did, believing punctuality was a form of respect. He was waiting. That was all. But waiting while black had always been dangerous. The patrol car stopped too close. The door opened too fast. Boots hit the pavement with rehearsed confidence. One officer glanced at Elijah's suit, then at his face and decided, without evidence, without words, that this man did not belong. "What are you doing here?" the officer asked, though the tone said, "You're already guilty." Elijah answered politely. He said he had business inside. The word business triggered laughter. Another officer joined in, louder this time. "Business?" he repeated, scanning Elijah from head to toe. "You sure you didn't mean trouble?" The crowd shifted. Some smiled awkwardly. Others leaned in, hungry for spectacle. Elijah felt the familiar tightening in his chest. Not fear, but the exhaustion of knowing exactly how this story usually went. They demanded identification with exaggerated suspicion, as if each movement Elijah made might explode into violence. He complied slowly, deliberately, aware that even calm could be misread as defiance. One officer took the ID, held it up, then looked back at Elijah with mock surprise. "Elijah Moore," he said. "That doesn't sound like someone who belongs in a place like this." The insult landed softly but cut deep. Laughter rippled through the officers. Someone in the crowd snickered. Another began recording openly. Elijah saw his reflection in the phone screen, a black man framed as a problem. The officer dropped the ID back into Elijah's chest instead of his hand. "What's in the briefcase?" he asked. Elijah answered honestly, "Documents." That was enough. A boot nudged the briefcase aside. "Mind if we take a look?" the officer said, already crouching. Elijah said calmly that he did mind, and that it was protected material. The word protected made the officers grin. "You hear that?" one said. "He knows big words." What followed was not an arrest, not an investigation, but a ritual humiliation. Questions looped without purpose. Commands contradicted each other. Elijah was told to step back, then accused of stepping back too slowly. Each moment was designed to remind him that his dignity existed only at their mercy. The officers spoke over him, around him, about him. "Why are you dressed like that?" "Who do you think you are? Trying to impress someone?" Elijah answered less and less. He had learned long ago that explanations often fed cruelty. Silence, however, was interpreted as arrogance. "You think you're better than us?" an officer snapped. The crowd murmured. Some faces showed discomfort now. Others still watched eagerly. The system thrived on witnesses who did nothing. Inside Elijah's mind, memories surfaced uninvited. His father being stopped for matching a description. His mother teaching him how to keep his hands visible. His voice calm, his eyes lowered. Professors who assumed he was admitted by mistake. Boardrooms where his ideas were ignored until repeated by someone else. This moment was not new. It was merely louder. Elijah felt the weight of history pressing down, but also something else. Certainty. He knew where this was going. He knew what they did not. The officers began running his name through their system, chuckling as they waited. One leaned close and whispered, "Let's see what you're hiding." Elijah said nothing. Minutes passed. The radio crackled. A frown replaced one officer's grin. He tried again. Another pause. Confusion spread among them like a quiet infection. The crowd sensed it. The laughter faded. Then the courthouse doors opened. A senior official stepped out, phone pressed to his ear. Irritation written across his face, until he saw Elijah. He froze mid-step. The phone lowered slowly. His eyes widened, then darted to the officers. "What is happening here?" he asked. The question was calm, but there was something sharp beneath it. An officer straightened, proudly, and explained they were detaining a suspicious individual who refused to cooperate. The official looked at Elijah again, really looked this time, then at the briefcase on the ground, then back at the officers. His voice dropped. "Do you know who this man is?" Silence slammed into the space between them. The crowd leaned closer. Elijah finally spoke, his voice steady, resonant, impossible to ignore. He introduced himself, not with anger but with authority. He said his full name, his title, his department. He explained that he was a senior federal civil rights investigator, assigned to review multiple allegations of racial misconduct involving law enforcement agencies in the region. The briefcase, he said, contained sworn statements, body cam transcripts, internal emails, and court filings. This courthouse was his first stop today. The officers' faces drained of color. The system they trusted to protect them had suddenly turned its gaze inward. The senior official demanded badge numbers immediately. Radios crackled again, but this time with urgency, not arrogance. Supervisors arrived. The crowd erupted into whispers. Phones captured everything now. Elijah explained calmly that this entire encounter had been recorded, time-stamped and documented. He spoke about patterns, how public humiliation was often the first step in dehumanization, how authority without accountability rotted into cruelty. He did not raise his voice. He did not insult anyone. He simply told the truth. And truth exposed was devastating. The officers tried to explain themselves. Their words stumbled over each other. They mentioned procedure, safety, misunderstanding. None of it held weight anymore. The balance of power had flipped completely. The same men who had mocked Elijah now avoided his gaze. One officer's hands shook as he removed his badge. The senior official issued immediate suspensions pending investigation. The crowd watched as the performance ended, replaced by consequence. Some people looked ashamed. Others looked inspired. A few wiped tears from their eyes. They had come expecting drama. They were witnessing justice. As the sun dipped lower, Elijah picked up his briefcase himself. He declined apologies offered too late. He addressed the crowd briefly, not as a victor, but as a witness. He spoke about dignity, about how systems reflect the values of those who operate them, about how silence enables cruelty. Then he turned and walked into the building, his steps measured, his head high. The doors closed behind him with a finality that echoed. Long after the police cars left, the story remained. It traveled through conversations, through social media, through hearts that had seen something shift. It reminded the world that intelligence, strength, and authority do not always announce themselves loudly, and that judging people by race, appearance, or assumed status is not only wrong but dangerous. Elijah's victory was not revenge. It was revelation. And revelation once seen cannot be unseen. If this story made you feel something, anger, hope, reflection, don't let that feeling fade. Subscribe to this channel for more powerful stories that confront injustice and honor dignity. Like this video so these truths reach further. And comment your thoughts below, because every voice raised against silence helps build a world where equality is not a promise, but a reality.